Cantrell defends her decision to block city employees from speaking at community meetings on the consent decree.
And because of that decision, a federal judge canceled the meeting set for today. But as Rob Masson reports, under a new court order, those meetings could get more expensive.
For 10 years, a federal judge has required regular community updates on progress being made with the NOPD consent decree. But the judge canceled this week's meeting after the mayor complained about limited resources and said city employees could no longer speak at the meetings without her permission.
Many of my department heads or leadership was requested to participate in this public meeting, again, with no reasons why.
The mayor put out a statement saying that the meeting represented a drain on the city, with topics frequently running outside the scope of the consent decree, including a recent action from the federal monitor blocking former mayoral security officer Jeffrey Vappy from returning to the mayor's security team.
What I've seen, that not just the monitor, quite frankly, but many other agencies have stepped outside of their scope of authority and outside of their lane, quite frankly, that the monitor is included.
But a crime watchdog says the mayor's concern about the decree and use of manpower flies in the face of her utilization of a 4-member security team, whose members complained during the Vappy investigation about having to often hold the mayor's purse and run personal errands for her, a practice which the mayor defends.
Absolutely, absolutely. Executive protection is about aiding me in doing my job at every level. And if that is taking care of personal matters for me, absolutely, because that allows me to do my job.
If she's concerned about sending officers to public hearings doing the work of the consent decree and reporting to the public on the consent decree, I think that if she's going to be consistent, she also needs to recognize that her executive team is a luxury that the city can't afford right now.
In response to the mayor pulling manpower from consent decree meetings, the consent decree judge issued an order mandating that they take place anyway in a court setting. Now the consent decree judge, Susie Morgan, has moved those community meetings into federal court. One crime watchdog says that's actually going to drive up costs for the city.
But we're going to reschedule it for an official hearing in court, which means it's going to cost the taxpayers more money, because a court proceeding means all the attorneys have to get engaged.
The federal judge said she's disappointed in the city's last-minute decision to prohibit police personnel from speaking at consent decree meetings, which she says are vital to the process. And she says she'll reschedule it in a courtroom setting in the near future. Rob Masson, Fox 8 Local First.
The mayor also commented on proposed changes in the way she uses the Montalba apartment, as outlined by the inspector general this week. More on that next.